Now, getting back to a panel, we've talked about strengthening and also looking at how we can implement the right to information. Personally, I am curious to see how different countries are addressing this. I'm curious to understand how different countries are coming forward with their information laws. We are seeing a lot of issues to do with implementation. But today, can we hear from different countries? And our next plenary session, we are going to have Ms. Tahiri Rokoteheri Nyana, who is the Internet Governor from Madagascar. We'll also have Ms. Christina Chan Meto, who is the Senior Lecturer in Media and Communication from all the way from Mauritius, and also Ms. Anne Derry, who's the Senior Program Officer, ICJ, Kenya, and not forgetting Ms. Slivia Nakabugo, who's the Assistant Commissioner of the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. I want to believe that for those that are present here, they can come join us here. We do have Miss Anne Derry, who is joining us online. Miss Livia Nakabugo is here. Ladies and gentlemen, for those that are here, not present. A second, please. So I have been informed that Miss Livia Nakabugo is here, right? Can we have those that are present come over and take over the stage? It is set for us. We'll be looking at the adoption of access to information laws, country experiences, and I would want us to make this quick. Can we have the representatives of the speakers come over to the stage? And as we do that, I know that Ms. Christina Chan Meto, who is the Senior Lecturer in Media and Communication, is online and is ready to address us. Over to you, Ms. Christina.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me on this panel. So it is really a great honor to be participating in this commemoration. I've been asked to address two key questions regarding the adoption of ATI law and the hurdles we face in Mauritius. To start off, it's important to know that in Mauritius, we do not have any ATI law, despite multiple commitments to introduce a Freedom of Information Act since 2005 by various governments. Instead, we have very real constraints through an Official Secrets Act that dates back to the British colonizers. The situation is not as dramatic, probably, as in many other countries, including countries which do have such ATI legislation, as we have a quite good democracy with interesting developments other than the introduction of an ATI law, of course. I'm thinking, for example, of the very rich government portal, which was introduced in 2013 and has been revamped since, which itself includes many dedicated websites for ministries, parastatal bodies, and departments of the government, including a full dedicated website for the National Assembly with the Hansard, and also a live Parliament TV since a few years ago. There's also the Open Data Portal since 2018 with a growing number of public data sets. And there's the more recently revamped Government Information Service, which carries live press conferences and full government press releases on its Facebook account. Yet, of course, we have no ATI law, and this does not look good for a country that generally prides itself on its good performance on international indices. Unfortunately, efforts by civil society organizations have been very sporadic and superficial, to say the least, to lobby for ATI in Mauritius. These efforts tend to happen primarily when there are confrontations between media people and politicians from the government, whatever be the government of the day. The media will then typically just be content with recalling the previous public commitments made by the politicians who happened to be in power at the time. A few CSO have written about the issue. Some local and foreign organizations have also organized workshops and panel debates, but to no avail so far. These are clearly insufficient efforts. We are in dire need of guidance from our peers on the continent to help us accelerate the process. Such events as this one are crucial for us to learn on how to best tackle this. Now, of course, there are many hurdles in Mauritius, many of which are not so obvious to the naked eye. The first one being that Mauritius, as I mentioned earlier, enjoys a good level of democracy overall, despite rising criticism. As mentioned before, government does provide access to information in various ways through its virtual platforms. Complementary to that, many journalists have historically have had many direct personal contacts with key people in government and civil service who do leak information, or even insiders who act as whistleblowers. This creates a situation of privileged access, which media people enjoy within their competitive information market. In fact, this is such that many journalists actually become information advisors to politicians when the latters assume office as ministers or even obtain nominations to government institutions. Finally, the introduction of ATI may not be seen as a priority by government in times of economic difficulties, such as the ones we are facing now with the COVID-19 pandemic. There are, of course, flaws to this line of thinking. First, one cannot only be reliant on the goodwill of those who come to power, knowing that we have a democracy with regular elections and quite regular change of parties in power, albeit in different compositions and different permutations and combinations. Correlated to that, if we really want to build back better, as is the motto for this commemoration, in order to achieve SDG 16 target 10, we need to have ATI to consolidate our democracy and ensure it becomes sustainable and stronger in the context of a knowledge society, which we like to say we are, or which we purport to be or aim to be. If we need to make any economic argument at all in favor of ATI, if it is, of course, well implemented, the legislation and its application, the long-term benefits associated to ATI can largely exceed the investment made. So this is indeed a very, very important period for us, and we really welcome such opportunities as this one to exchange and to learn from you, from your experience. It really warms the heart to see that your people who are in decision-making positions are able to hold to participate in such events, and we would like to be able to emulate you on that account. Thank you very much, and really again, happy International Day for Universal Access to Information to all brothers and sisters on the continent.
Meto, before you go, I do want to pick your thoughts on the role the civil society organizations in your country are actually doing to promote government commitment to adopt the access to information. Just briefly, in say 40 seconds.
Well, like I mentioned, there are not many civil society organizations who specialize in access to information, lobbying for access to information like you people have over there. And really, everything needs to be done. We only have occasional civil society organizations who will raise their voices whenever there are direct confrontations between media people and people in government. And there will also be media people who will then, write editorials and columns to claim the introduction of a Freedom of Information Act without really going into the details. It tends to be very superficial. And we don't really make a very strong case. And of course, the fact that we have been pretty well ranked, although there have been changes in our rankings over the years, in for example, Freedom House Index, Reporters Without Borders Index, the African Media Barometer. That seems to like create a complacent atmosphere where we don't really feel the urgency. The fact is, that's a problematic way of thinking, because we relying on the goodwill of people in power right now. It's not good strategy, because so far, let's say we have had pretty democratic governments, but we never know what can happen in a few years' time. So we really need to step up our efforts on this account.
Step up the efforts indeed. Now, ladies and